Welcome to Pintys Sports Inside Look. I'm Clinton Jeffrey. On this episode, we will focus in on the Nascar Pinty series and its young champion, Caden Lapcevich. Adam Ross and I stopped by the Fastline Motorsports team to check on their preparations for the 2017 NASCAR Pinty series.
Well, we're at the Fastline Motorsports shop here in Hamilton where all of Caden Lapcevich's cars are prepared. Caden, we're almost to the race season. How's the off-season been for you?
It's been way too long. But it's kept us busy preparing cars for next season, trying to track down some funding to go racing again, and just being with my team all season. We get to interact, collaborate, and it keeps us busy and doing what we love.
I had a lot of fun calling last season, but there's questions that I've wanted to ask you the entire offseason because do you realize how much destiny played a role in the championship that you won last year?
It was definitely a little bit of a surprise for us. We didn't expect it going into Mosport and the first race. We didn't expect to run the whole season, but so everything sort of came as a surprise to us. Even when we made the trip out to Chaudière, that was a last minute, really late decision that just came out of nowhere. So the whole season just sort of played out of hand.
So to explain it a little bit, Chaudière was race number 2 on the schedule between Canadian Tire Motorsport Park and the trip to Sunset. And you guys had committed to running Canadian Tire Motorsport Park and Sunset, but you had no intentions of going to Chaudière, which is, I want to say, a 7 or 8 hour tow. You tell the rest of the story. Why did you wind up at Chaudière?
We ran good at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We came out 4th, and then we were actually testing the day we probably would have been leaving for Chaudière, and we got a phone call and they're like, we've postponed the race till now or till then. So we were committed to going to Sunset. So we went to Sunset, did that. We came out with a points lead, found a little bit of funding to go do it. And, we were able to go out there and have another solid performance. And, we were just able to keep putting good runs together. And we just had so much confidence and motivation to keep going to races and trying to do good. So it all just sort of worked out.
Driving a race car in Canada, for people like us who grew up around racing, it's a dream. It's great. Doesn't necessarily make you the coolest kid in school, but you still seem to manage to go to school and be pretty damn popular. What's it like to go to school the week after you become the youngest champion in NASCAR history and just try to be Caden Lapcevich?
It was just another day at school, really. A lot of people ask me what it was like, how it felt, and a lot of my teachers did too as well. But I know I couldn't let what I was doing in the race car affect how I came to school and acted and how I treated my friends and stuff. So it was just trying to go back to school and I don't want to say I wanted to brag about it a lot because it was something I was really proud of, but I just had to hold it in, just go to class and get my homework and leave and go to football practice. But, it was really neat. We ended up taking the car there for the Terry Fox run to show it off. I guess it was a week after Corth, and, all the kids were really cool. They were trying to sit in it and stuff, and kids were playing with the buttons and stuff, and I had to yell at them and stuff. But, everybody that I hang out with finds a really cool interest in it. And a lot of the kids I grew up with are motorheads. So they all grew up in the countries with their tractors and their trucks and stuff. So they all find it really interesting. We showed them a tour of the car and stuff. And, it was really neat to show people what I love and how much there is to it. Because, I think some of them underestimate it a little bit. But, they all find it really neat.
So when you're at high school, you got a little bit of time left to go. Are you thinking about... Because you have to get your education. Everyone's going to say, you've got to get your education. It's important to learn. What do you want to be when you grow up?
I really don't know. As much as driving a race car for the rest of my life seems about the most absolute perfect life a race car driver could live, if it doesn't happen, I got to have a backup plan. So, I've always liked what my father does, being an electrician and stuff. I always found it really neat. I like working in the trades, welding, and doing all that sort of stuff. So I'm not really sure what I want to do, but I know it's going to be something either that involves driving race cars or, trying to work down south with the big teams or, being in the trades back at home.
Is Caden Lapcevich a good student?
He tries to be. He tries to do all his homework and stuff when he's not working on race cars. So it's and I know I can't race unless I have good grades. So it's there's another little motivation there to do it all.
Did it bother you after you won your championship that Todd Gilliland just 2 months later then became the youngest champion in NASCAR history? I mean, you broke a record that had stood for a long, long time, and you only got to enjoy it for a couple of months.
I got to enjoy it and say I was able to break Joey Logano's record. So that was a neat thing because he started in quarter midgets just like I did. And, his path led him to NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series. So, maybe I can take the same path that he did to get there. So it was cool to break his record. It sucked to see Todd break my record, but, that's part of life and it's how it goes.
We appreciate you letting us come into your shop on shop night and disrupt you to do the interview, Caden. What are your goals as you set out for 2017? I mean, how do you come back after a season like you had?
I think we just try to repeat it and almost do it all over again, but not make it as big as a surprise when we show up to the racetrack. So, we'll see where it leads. I feel really confident going into next season. With both our road course and oval program, and maybe we'll be able to win a couple more races or maybe better our average finish or lead more laps. So there's still a lot of goals we can overcome and stuff, but we'll see where it goes. I'd like to have the same exact season that we did last year, except not make it as surprising.
After 20 plus years of driving race cars, your dad was pretty good behind the wheel. Do you think it bothers him that he was a better crew chief in the first year than he was at driving over those 20 plus years?
I don't think so. He's always loved to watch me and my brothers race, and he says that's why he got out of racing. So I love having him up on the box and calling the strategy and all the changes that we make. So it's really neat to see how far we've come.
Well, we're here with Jeff Lapsevich. Jeff, what an amazing season for the team. And when we say the team, not just Caden, but talk about how cool is it to have both the boys running so well?
It's a lot of fun. It's something we've been working on for a long time. And, trading to jump into Superstock after the couple seasons Caden had with it, he had pretty big shoes to fill. And he, never really skipped a beat. He got in there, was competitive right away, won a couple features later in the season. And, I think out of the three big specials at the end of the season, he was the top qualifier in all three of them. So I had a really impressive year. I got to say he surprised me because I knew he'd run well because he's a really smart racer, but to win as early as he did was sort of a surprise. In the Pintys car, Caden just he made a lot of good decisions, and that's how he's always been. So I can't really say that I was surprised. I was surprised we were able to finish the season with the funding we had. I guess was more of a surprise, but that's how it goes, I guess.
I know your dad would have been very proud of everything they've come to accomplish here. It's been about 4 years now since we lost your dad. Let's talk about what it would have meant for your dad to have the Prime Minister tweet out a notice about Caden. I think that would have been probably pretty cool for your dad to have witnessed.
Yeah, Dad was always a really big supporter of everything the boys did, whether it was racing or basketball or soccer. He was always right there, and racing was always his first love. But his grandkids were always really special to him. So, I think he'd be on cloud nine, and he is. So there's no doubt, and the boys know that we're as far along in this sport because of efforts Dad made 30 years ago. So it's not something that happened overnight, and it was so much, Dad ran it for so long that and even after he left, we had a really solid foundation here. So none of his efforts missed, and I know he'd be really proud of what they've done.
You mentioned doing cold calls, working the phones as best you can to make these deals happen for the team. For anybody who's watching out there, why should they get with Fastline and what you guys have going on here?
Well, I just, I think these two boys got a lot to offer. They both well spoken, and they present themselves well. They drive the wheels off the things and always keep them up front. So, they're active in social media, and they're a good story. They're young and they're talented, and they're doing a great job.
The recipe for success on the ice is simple. Be determined, work as a team, stay focused, and never compromise.
The recipe for great tasting chicken starts with our premium quality ingredients.
Pinty's Pub and Grill, restaurant quality in the convenience of your home.
Authentic, great tasting chicken without compromise.
Pintys, making great food fun.
Well, we can't very well have a visit with Fastline Motorsports without talking about the next best thing. I mean, Caden Lapsevich is a pretty big story. Trayton's not so bad himself. You shattered his record at Sunset Speedway as the youngest champion, Trayton. What's next on the accolades that you want to knock your brother off of?
Well, I'd like to make it to the NASCAR Pinty series and maybe bust some of his records there. But this year we're going into the APC series, and it's a big step for me moving into a pro late model after Superstock, so we'll see how that goes.
What kind of goals do you set yourself in the APC series, which for those who may not know is Ontario's premier short track racing series?
Just try and keep the car clean all year. And we're going to go into some tracks that I've never raced before, and with the short amount of practice time that we get, I need to try and adapt to the track as quick as I can, so that's another big challenge that I have to overcome.
How do the other drivers treat you, Trayton? Because you're popular online and social media, and from what I've seen at the racetrack, you're pretty popular, but I've never really talked to some of the drivers that you've been beating week in and week out. How do they take that?
Well, I race them how I want to be raced, and usually they usually show me some respect off the track, congratulating me on my success.
So Caden says you broke his record at Sunset. He wants to be able to keep a record for himself. Are you going to let him keep that Pinty Series record, or do you think he needs to go out and earn a couple more records? Because when you come along and break them, you want to leave something for you as well.
I don't know. We'll have to see.
That's a pretty politically correct answer. What would you say if the cameras weren't on?
I'm going to break it.
There you go. Fastline Motorsports, that's Trayton Lapsevich, the next big thing. Now, what happens when younger brother Trayton, who's fairly successful in his own right, gets old enough to come challenge your record as the youngest champion ever?
Well, he already kicked me out of my pro late model, so we'll see. I hope to hold the record in Pintys for as long as possible. He already broke my Sunset record for youngest champion, so I mean, I'd like to hold one at least, just so I can say that. But we'll see where he goes. He's been pretty successful, and he's a pretty good wheelman himself. So.
The last two races, they certainly weren't anticlimactic because you went out and won a championship and broke a NASCAR record, but it almost seems like all the hurdles had already been overcome. You guys had already overachieved what you had set out to do. Talk about the last day, Kawartha Speedway. You basically just had to show up and take the green flag. What goes through your mindset? Your team grew by about 5 times that day. There was all of a sudden tons of people with Fastline Motorsports, people from the past, people from the present. What was the mood like?
It was really good. It was something I was really looking forward to, knowing that we just had to take the green flag, and at the same time, it was just something I wanted to get over. Like the anticipation was just killing me. Like I was nervous going into it. But at the same time I was calm. So it was just a little bit of everything. When we got rained out on Saturday, I sort of hated that because I was like, well, now it's just another night. I got to sleep through dreaming of it. So it's, when Sunday came, we took the green flag and, ran our race, came out with another podium finish, and, Dad came over the end, or at the radio at the end, and said we were finally the champions. It was just it was a great feeling knowing how much we accomplished throughout the season, knowing what we did with what we had, and just everybody that stuck behind us, and we couldn't have done it without them all.
They all do pretty well at Fastline Motorsports. We've just spent some time with Caden Lapsevich here in their Hamilton shop.
Well, that'll do it for this edition of Pinty Sports Inside Look. I'm Clinton Jeffrey. Thanks for watching.